Hello, Curb the Cyclist, another provocative title. Let me start by making it clear that I have nothing against cyclists or cycling. It's a free country and you're perfectly entitled to ride your bicycle if you wish to, providing you do it with care, courtesy and consideration to other road users. What I'm concerned with is the idea that Cycling City is going to help solve our transport problems. I don't think it will. If you're young and fit and you haven't got too far to go, then cycling is a reasonable way to get there. And apart from being cheap, it also keeps you fit. But it simply doesn't work for an awful lot of citizens. Few of us can live close enough to our work for cycling every day to be a realistic means of transport. And when you get older, you start having sick relatives, and it is simply not the way to take a disabled or ill person to and from hospital. I've done a lot of that in the last 10 years. There's also the question of what exactly have we been doing as part of Cycling City. One of my concerns has been some of the so-called safety schemes. We had one here in Gloucester Road where they wanted to spend over £400,000, so say because there had been so many cycling accidents. The idea of the scheme was to close all the side roads to everything except cyclists. They call it permeability. That's permission for cyclists to go anywhere and the rest of us to go nowhere. Well, I got the statistics from the council to see how many accidents there'd actually been in the area. And the previous year there had been one accident in which someone was injured. That was between a car and a motorcycle. I couldn't find any that involved cyclists or pedestrians at all. The cycling lobby responded that in between 2009 to 2013 there had been 65 accidents reported to the police in which a cyclist was injured. Well, I rang the police up and asked them, and I emailed them twice, but they couldn't confirm this. Eventually the scheme was dropped, I'm glad to say. But as a result of getting the statistics from the council, I had a look through them, and I found there had been 39 accidents in the previous year in which a cyclist had been injured. 13 of them had been in the hours of darkness, so I asked the council if these cyclists had had lights on. We don't know was the answer. This strikes me as a peculiar way of formulating a cycling safety policy, and I think we need some changes there. The other concern I have is what has been happening to traffic. How do you halve the throughput of a junction? Well, here's a typical road junction. Right, set of traffic lights, 2 lanes of traffic. Put in a cycle lane, and you halve the traffic. When the lights change, most of the cars can't get through, and throughout most of the day there's a line of stationary traffic there with their engines idling, producing pollution. It doesn't improve things for the cyclists one jot, because they don't use it, they just cycle on the pavement when the lights turn red. I have a horrible feeling that over the last 10 or 15 years, cycling has probably been one of the most polluting forms of transport we have. I'll say that again, I think cycling has been one of the most polluting forms of transport we have. This is my thinking. When you alter a junction like that, you obviously have a fossil fuel input in making the tarmac and the concrete and making the signs and so on. That's part of it. But there's a much bigger waste of fuel, and that is all these vehicles sitting there because they can't get through the junction. Now, how does that benefit society? The cyclists will say, yes, cycling, you see, doesn't produce any pollution. We don't use any fuel. Well, I don't think that's true either. It's only true if you stop driving your car and ride a bicycle and the bus that you could have caught instead doesn't run. Otherwise, you can achieve the same result by catching a lift from somebody or simply riding the bus. Riding a bicycle is irrelevant to it. I haven't seen any research into whether or not this is true, but I really think it would be useful to do so. Now, I've talked a lot about what I think is wrong with our traffic policies in Bristol. What I haven't talked about is what I would do about them if I was Metro Mayor. And that's what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. The talk is called Future Transport. If you like what you've heard today, or even if you don't, please share it. And if you want to comment or ask any questions, bishopstonbarry@uwclub.net. Bye!